Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Jock and Jill podcast. This is your boy Guru from Cold Coffee TV, reporting to you live from Chocolate City at the East Side Motel. Here with your girl Joan, Madden, the Gridiron Goddess. We're here to talk about the games that took place on yesterday. So, Joan, how you feeling this morning?
I'm a little bit nervous, Got that big interview coming up on Good Morning Washington, a live interview. So I'm a little bit nervous, apprehensive as a result. It's probably like the biggest one of my career, biggest market, obviously, and I'm very grateful and excited, but nervous nonetheless. And I also have to talk about the recap of the Redskins and the Eagles game. So I'm glad we're getting a practice run here. But also it helps that Philly lost because since we're in DC, and so it's kind of like talking about the home team, like the home team won, so the energy and stuff will be a lot better. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Nervous nonetheless. But yeah, definitely take these practice runs, and it's great to be in DC.
Yeah, absolutely. The first game that we're going to talk about on the slate is the Buffalo Bills versus the San Francisco 49ers. And, this was a game, that felt like it was just such a bad game for Colin to come back. Colin Kaepernick, this was his comeback game, by the way. We talked about this on a previous podcast. I did feel like this was a bad game for Colin to come back because Buffalo had been registering sacks and forcing turnovers left and right against everybody they've been playing lately. So, and this game was really no different. The defense had 4 sacks and 2 forced fumbles, which, were lost by the 49ers, in addition to the 49ers allowing 300 rushing yards and a total of 4 touchdowns. 3 of those were by LaShawn McCoy, who gashed their defense left and right, and I'm sure Chip Kelly with his front row seat didn't enjoy that show too much because it was at his expense. Tyrod Taylor did also throw 2 TD passes. It was a real well-rounded game for the Buffalo Bills. Joan, how do you feel about how this game went?
Well, of course, in picking the game, it was one of those, I knew Buffalo was going to win. Buffalo's playing hot right now. They're on a winning streak, and it was a home game for them. And you know how I feel about when West Coast teams travel from their home to come play on the East Coast at 1 o'clock p.m. Mentally, they're thinking it's 10 a.m., so they're kind of already at a little bit of a disadvantage right there. It doesn't always happen to where the West Coast team traveling to the East loses, i.e. you guys' situation when Oakland came to Baltimore a couple weeks ago. But still, for the most part, it's been an unfavorable matchup for West Coast teams to travel to the East and play at 1 o'clock and think that they're going to win. Oh, look, well, Arizona at Buffalo. There's another example to where it did not work in their favor.
Right. And
it was Buffalo again. So no harm in San Francisco losing that game. It was pretty much predicted that they would. However, in knowing that San Francisco's rush defense ranks 31 and they're giving up like 170 or some odd yards per game on the run defense, if you'd almost double that, like, it's almost like you got to blow that up and start from scratch. Like, seriously, you got to do like America's Next Top Run Defense or something and have Tyra Banks hosted, and you have like audition for people who want to help stop the run. Like, seriously, this is Swiss cheese run defense at its finest right here, where you almost give up 300 yards. I tell you what, Carolina Panthers, you have nothing to be ashamed of anymore by allowing Julio Jones 300 passing yards a few weeks ago, courtesy of San Francisco allowing 300 rushing yards. So you have nothing to be ashamed of anymore, thanks to the 49ers. But I really feel bad for Kaepernick because I really wanted this to be a game, like, him making his first start of the season in week 6 with everything surrounding him and just the way he's been able to handle stuff with a lot of grace and a lot of just really a brave act here, because this is the moves that he's pulling take a lot of courage. It takes a lot of balls. So I wanted it to be a little bit more favorable for him. Knew Buffalo was going to win, but I just wanted Cap to have like a really, really good game. And he didn't. But I think that is going to come. No panic button here. He does have some favorable games coming up, like some games he could possibly win against the Bucks, against the Dolphins, against the Saints. They don't stop anybody either. Maybe they'll allow 301 rushing yards or 301 passing yards or something. But anyway, I think he has a little bit more of a brighter future to look forward to. This was a very bleak game for him to be starting again. I think he was kind of set up with that. And also, McCoy was going against Chip Kelly. With the way that relationship ended, how bitter it ended, and you think LaShawn McCoy don't still wear that chip on his shoulder, you're crazy. So He's been reminded constantly of this game coming on the calendar, and he wasn't going to let himself or his teammates or the city of Buffalo down by go ahead and taking that win and reminding Chip Kelly that you made a big mistake in getting rid of me. So, yeah, but good luck to Cap for the rest of the season, and Buffalo too, because Buffalo, I really like Buffalo. I like Rex Ryan. No surprises what his defense did, but yeah, I'll good luck to both teams for the rest of the season.
The next game on the slate is the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears. A game that I predicted that the Chicago Bears would knock off the Jacksonville Jaguars, in which, if you watched it, you know that the Chicago Bears dominated this whole game except for the last 12 minutes of it. They won 3 quarters. They just couldn't win the last one. Jacksonville Jaguars did get back on their feet, saved Gus Bradley's job, allowed him an extra week of employment before he gets his unemployment. It was a real interesting contest. The Jacksonville Jaguars won 17-16. So, Joan, how do you feel about how that game went down?
Why pick Jacksonville? That's my little darling team. Duval. I want them to win the AFC South anyway and think that they still have a chance to do so, especially with some of the changes that have happened with the remaining teams in that division. Of course, because I'm on Jacksonville radio every Saturday morning, and I was this past Saturday, I picked them on the air as well. I said it was going to be a close one. I almost even said it was going to come down to like the last few minutes, and I should have went with that because that's exactly what happened. I mean, Jacksonville had been playing from behind. As you alluded to, Chicago pretty much dominated this game. Despite the fact that Jordan Howard was bottled up, Chicago was still finding ways to make it happen and to have the lead over Jacksonville. But they just surrendered it at the end. While we're talking about Gus Bradley and his coaching future, I mean, we might even have to look at John Fox's coaching future here. I know, of course, his philosophy is they want to run the ball, i.e. look at what he did with his years in Carolina with Stephen Davis, and they want to dominate the line of scrimmage. But they haven't been successful in both, and I know there's been huge injuries with a lot of their starting personnel, and they have rebounded over the past few weeks. I mean, they've next man up, and then that's what's been happening. Hoyer's been looking better. There were times last year where Hoyer looked Hoyer-able, but he's been bouncing back and improving. I actually even read a stat somewhere, and I'll get the numbers as we proceed, but the last 11 starts that Hoyer had versus the last 11 starts that Aaron Rodgers had, Hoyer actually statistically had been better. I mean, on the low, but he did help Houston get to the playoffs last year too and win that division. But nonetheless, and then they put together a couple of wins there with Chicago as well. So I was really blown away. But once I started thinking about it, yeah, that does seem accurate. But however, they did not win yesterday. They need a little bit more offense in doing so because you contained them defensively. And considering that you had an undermanned secondary, the way that you bottled up Blake Bortles, very impressive. I didn't know that they had Trevathan back, thanks to you letting me know. Yes, so Trevathan was back. But yeah, just Jacksonville just happened to catch that break at the end and go on and lead. So you know how it is when you win a game like that. If you're losing 58 minutes and you win the last 2, you'll take it. And that was a huge road win for them, too. And it sets them back up with the division. So congratulations to Jacksonville. Chicago, you got a little bit more work to do. And especially with the Vikings looking as dominant as they are in their division, if you're trying to contend, you got a lot of work to do. And that includes being able to close out your fourth quarter leads.
Okay. So the next game on the slate was a real interesting game. It was a game that I didn't expect for it to be such a big shootout. I did previously predict that the Detroit Lions would knock off the Los Angeles Rams. However, I wasn't expecting this score to be so high, and this was a game where Matthew Stafford had 4 TD passes, and Case Keenum had 3 TD passes. So these guys were out there looking like all-stars.
Right.
I don't even get it. I mean, what's up with Detroit's defense? These guys, they seem like they out there letting everybody get off. So, Joan, what do you think about the way that game went down?
Yeah, with the fact that Case Keenum being the type of quarterback that he has been, I was really tripping out, too, that he had threw the 3 touchdown passes. And, I guess Detroit, so far this season on defense, they're playing, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, like Oprah or whatever. They've, allowed the most touchdowns for tight ends so far. They're definitely within the top 5. The last I checked, they were number 1, and that was a couple of games ago. But, yeah, they're, in the top 5 of allowing tight ends to score touchdowns. So it's just kind of seriously, and I'm kind of disappointed with that because, Jim Caldwell is my boy. He used to coach here in Winston-Salem with the same city where I got a degree, and I try to root for him. But I'm extremely disappointed in that statistic. Nonetheless, it was an ugly win, but they did get the win. again, with Minnesota doing what they're doing and the dominance that they have, and thankfully they had a bye, so Detroit able to get that win, helping them out. I don't think that they'll catch Minnesota, but hey, at this point in time, you'll take all the little bits and pieces and little bonuses that you can get and run with them. I have to praise Matt Stafford again, though, because, of course, this was a year that I honestly expected Matt Stafford to fall off and fall back with not having the great Megatron Calvin Johnson to bail him out. But, again, kudos. I've mentioned this is not the first time I brought this up, but kudos again to Matt Stafford for continuing to excel without having such a huge playmaker that was Megatron for all of those years. I mean, he had him for like the past decade of years. And a few weeks ago on the Fantasy Fulfilled, I told y'all to go get Golden Tate. He was my sleeper pick. And you see what he did. He gave a treasured performance there yesterday. Golden Tate, that is. I mean, who knew that it was coming? But if you listen to me on the Fantasy Fulfilled on the ESPN network a few weeks ago, I told you to go get Golden Tate. And, of course, on yesterday, he had 8 catches. So if you're in a PPR league, points per reception league, that's 8 points off the gate. And he gave you a touchdown, which is another 6, and then 165 yards as well. So very impressive numbers there. And then Anquan, of course, we talked about him being like a number 2, number 3 receiver with Detroit. And don't forget they also have Marvin Jones. So he got a touchdown too, Anquan Bolden did. So yeah, this is very impressive what Detroit is doing. And then they just went and added Justin Forsett. So they can make things interesting as well and continue to do so. Congratulations to them. I hate that for my boy William Hayes playing defense for the LA Rams. Y'all allowed 31 points. I'm really shocked and floored by that because I expect a little bit more of a dominant performance from them. But perhaps you'll be able to rebound next week, and you don't want to allow 31 points again.
All right, and the next game on the slate that we're going to talk about this morning is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins were the hosting team in this game. And this was a real interesting game, for a title contender in the Pittsburgh Steelers, considering that their starting quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, was knocked out of this game. He's looking like he's going to be out for the season. For a team who had such, high title hopes. Joan, where does this team go from here? Do they bring back Michael Vick, or what's the plan here? What do you think the plan is going to be, rather, Joan?
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing about us as the Steelers, like when the Cowboys lost Tony Romo last year and they finished with a 4-12 campaign, that will not be the Pittsburgh Steelers. We don't have a puppet for a coach, and Mike Tomlin is about as cutthroat and as hardcore as it comes. So he will not let our team succumb to this. We won't. We did get a favor yesterday as well with all the other 3 teams in our division losing. So we maintained the 1-game lead. The thing that's disappointing about Ben being out is, he got out the week before we played New England. So we're going into this, limping into this game with no Ben and with questions with our backup quarterback. So that's one huge deficiency right there. The second thing is, because we have such a tight race in our division, things could open up. But again, we got the benefit of the doubt with everybody in our division losing. We were 0-4 in our division yesterday, and like everybody had a game, nobody had a bye week in our division, and we all lost. Things could definitely spiral for us. I'll be as brutally honest as possible, but again, I trust Mike Tomlin, I trust Todd Haley, I trust Bell, I trust Brown, I trust the Rooneys. And I just feel like some of the stuff, like with Carolina, what they're going through with some of the decisions that their GMs have made and the adjustments that they've had to make, we will react, and we'll react promptly, and we will be steadfast, and we'll be resilient. And that's not to say that we could be standing in the AFC Championship, perhaps standing at the Super Bowl as a Super Bowl contender. That I don't believe in as much anymore. But I do think that we, again, will be resilient. We'll shake some things up. We'll make things still interesting. Perhaps we will go back and get Michael Vick. I think that when he had to cover for being last year, he wasn't quite ready. And he's a left-handed quarterback. And Todd Haley, he actually needs to be a little bit more understanding to that. Like some of the plays that he draws, you got to understand this is a left-handed quarterback that you're dealing with. So he needs to make adjustments as well as Mike Vick. Because Landry Jones, I don't really trust him as a backup. I've seen him kind of destroy us at the backup quarterback position. And Michael Vick is not like the Michael Vick that he once was, like not even Atlanta Michael Vick, but when he first started with Philly before he got hurt. But if we can get that Michael Vick back, I'm not even expecting us to get Atlanta Falcons Mike Vick back. But if we sign Mike Vick back and we can get like the traces of Philly, Like that first Monday night opener when the first play from scrimmage was like an 80-yard bomb to Deshaun Jackson at the time. If we can get some of that, I think that we'll be okay. And again, as long as people in our division keeps losing, that will also help us out as well. But we'll take it one day at a time. We're going to be limping for the rest of the season. But I think that we'll do the things necessary to still get the job done. Not going undefeated. Definitely not. But we'll make things interesting, and we're not a team that you can count out.
Another quick question, Joan. So are there any concerns, with the Pittsburgh defense? I mean, at this point, I know that, there's been games where you guys have balled out, and then there have been games, where you've had letdowns. And the Miami running back yesterday, Jay Ayaji, I'm sorry if I get your name wrong, bruh. This guy ran for 204 yards yesterday against the Pittsburgh defense, and you guys lost 30-15. Are there any concerns about this defense at this point?
Well, I've had concerns about our defense since we lost Troy Polamalu and since we lost Ike Taylor and like Joey Porter, Foote, and those guys. We lost a lot of our identity, and Dick LeBeau. So I've had concerns for it before yesterday. But where I think we would have had a better chance yesterday, like we didn't have Shazier. We were actually missing 11 starters on that game yesterday. I think if we can get some of that strength back starting Sunday and the rest of the way, that's going to help us drastically. I'm very concerned for our defense. And like I said, I've been concerned for our defense. However, the concerns comes more into play now because for years, our defense had been able to somewhat mask our offense. The past few seasons, our offense had been able to mask some of the flaws in our defense. But the fact that we're losing our quarterback, our lead signal caller, then there's not much masking that our offense will be able to do for our defense now. So that causes an extensive level of concern. But again, I think that we will make some of the necessary moves. I don't know, maybe will we have to go out and look at some of these free agents, and even though it's at positions that we really don't necessarily need, in order to secure some of the spots that be healthy, maybe we do need to go out and look at the Finnegans or the Cromarties or something like that while they're still available. And definitely Vic as well. So yes, my concern level has increased about our defense, but it's not new to me. I've kind of been braced for it, and this is just an additional level to it.
The next game on the slate was the New England Patriots and the Cincinnati Bengals, and this was a real interesting game too, if you caught it. The Cincinnati Bengals, there was a point in this game where they were controlling it. They actually were playing pretty solid defense. They had forced some pressures on Tom Brady. He had a sack. Vontaze Burfict, was the man who had the sack, of course. Andy Dalton seemed to be playing pretty well. However, it seemed like, Tom Brady and them waited till a little late in the third quarter to be like, he waited to the fourth quarter, late in the third quarter, to just go ahead and show all the way off. And New England dominated this game. The score looks like it at this point, 35-17. New England Patriots won this game. Any surprises or any takeaways from this game, Joan?
We know how I feel about both of these teams. I mean, Cincinnati is my division rival. I want them to lose everything, and I despise New England because they're cheaters. They've actually compromised the integrity of the league, and this goes way back to the days of the Tuck rule. I honestly wish this game could have ended in a tie because I despise both teams. I didn't want anybody to win. But I was not surprised that the Patriots won, and that has a lot to do with because Tom Brady's back on their roster after the suspension. Plus, this was their first game at home with Tom Brady back. Of course, last week was his first game back, but it was on the road in Cleveland. So I knew he wasn't going to lose at home. First game back. He hasn't played at home since like last January. And here we are 9 months later. Like, seriously, yeah. So I knew that Tom Brady was going to be able to get a win here. But my concern for Cincinnati is you're on a 3-game losing streak. This stems back to the Dallas game. You've lost your identity. You're not running the ball at all. Like, where's your balance on your offense? And then secondly, where is your defense to be like a consistent threat? Dallas was not scared to run the ball on you last week. Tom Brady wasn't scared to pass it on you. And I understand why to a certain extent because he has the personnel that can kind of go against anybody's defense. But again, I just thought that Cincinnati would kind of restore some of their identity this week, especially because they had lost 2 straight. So that's my concern with them. And then it was kind of like I was saying earlier, I kind of want New England to win because that way that'll give us, a better chance to beat them next week. Because of the fact that I didn't feel like if New England would have lost today, that they would have lost 2 in a row. Sure, I wanted them to lose 2 in a row, but the chances were very much slim to none. It was like anorexic to none, seriously. But we'll see how it goes next week as New England travels to Pittsburgh. Everything's a lot more favorable for them right now, with Pittsburgh giving up 200 yards on the run, losing Ben. It was a classic trap game for Pittsburgh, and they fell for it. And they're going to have to do something quick, fast, in a hurry with the hot New England team coming into town.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I definitely feel you on that, Joan. It was a real interesting game. And the next game on the slate, was a just old-fashioned jamboree. These guys was out there at a cookout. Everybody got a chance to eat a little something out there on the field. The Panthers and the Saints. A game that ended 41-38, with the kicker Will Lutz kicking the field goal from 52 for the Saints to secure the victory over the Carolina Panthers, placing them in a hole at 1-5. This is a real unfamiliar territory, I would say, for the Carolina Panthers. I know that, there was a season, with the 7-9 and everything that they ended up, still making the playoffs. Starting off 1-5 is a very deep hole, and they're 0-3 in the division at this point. We're 6 weeks in. They need some help right now. They need teams to start taking some losses in the division. Mm-hmm. They kind of need some help. How do you feel about the situation that the Panthers are in, and what are your takeaways from this game, Joan?
Well, the fact that I cheer for the Panthers second because I'm from North Carolina, but I was a Steelers fan first. And the fact that I cheer for Carolina as a result, secondly, both the teams I cheer for are having this type of slump. And as you alluded to, with Carolina losing 3 divisional games, not to mention these are 3 consecutive divisional game losses. And stemming back from the week before they took this skid to losing 3 divisional games, they lost to Minnesota as well. So overall, they're on a 4-game losing streak, 3-game divisional losing streak, and they're going into a bye. Like, you don't want to lose 3 straight and go into a bye. Like, you ready to play again because you're trying to get rid of that embarrassing stench that you have at the moment. Not to mention, you have so many questions unanswered going into this bye week. So many adjustments to be made. That's not what you want going into a bye week. You want to have won that last game, like go into a bye week confident and have some confidence to build to continue when you come out of bye week. At this point in time, you went to your bye week with 4 consecutive losses. You're depleted. Your energy, your confidence, your outlook. You lost 4 more games as of week 6 than you lost in the entire season last year. I'll say 3 more because if you count the Super Bowl loss. You lost 3 more games 6 weeks into the season than you lost in the entire 2015 season. Unbelievable, unheard of. The other interesting thing about with the Carolina Panthers, what I saw a little while ago, in looking at the past 5 NFC champions that started 1-5, none of them made the playoffs. So that's another kind of ailment as well. Like, you're really, really in a deep, deep, deep hole. I don't know how you're going to come out of it, but I would start by looking at possibly re-signing Cortland Finnegan ASAP. Going to Peanut Tillman's house, begging, pleading, come out of retirement, give that man whatever he wants, give that man's wife, family, children, whatever they want as well, to get him back into that secondary, and also try to get Cromartie as well. I definitely would start looking at those things, and you get an extra week to do so. And when you come out of the bye week, you do return with the home game. So definitely some adjustments need to be made ASAP. This is not Sweet Caroline. Boom, boom, boom. This is Sour Caroline. So y'all need to do something quick, fast, and in a hurry. And if there's something that I could do to help, I'm just in Greensboro and you're in Charlotte, so give me a call because I think I have some, I could be like your Olivia Pope in this.
I feel you on that, Joan. Y'all better call her. Y'all in dire straits, y'all need to get that together. The next game on the slate, we got the New York Giants and the Baltimore Ravens, a game in which Odell looked like his hug and kiss on the net, might have just restored him back to being great because the man went for 222 yards and 2 touchdowns. 22 twos. 222. So, yeah, but the New York Giants were able to restore their season as well back to relevancy by winning this game 27-23. They are now currently sitting at 3-3, along with the Baltimore Ravens, who are also currently sitting at 3-3, but they are currently sitting at 3-3 after a 3-0 start. So, their little situation has just kind of turned real sour real fast. Somebody going to have to go to somebody's locker and pull them to the side and figure out, who owes who some money, because things just ain't going the way they supposed to go right now. Guys giving up yards, making things real hard for themselves at this moment. But, Joan, how do you feel about the outlook for these two teams, the Baltimore Ravens and the New York Giants? And any takeaways from this game yesterday?
Well, first of all, New York Giants, as a Steelers fan, I thank you. Hallelujah, and I thank you. Yes, hallelujah, and I thank you. Because, I'm glad that the Ravens have lost 3 straight. I have nothing to offer to them. I don't care. I have no advice for you. I don't care. I know that you made some changes with firing your offensive coordinator. It looks like you were able to put more points on the board, but you weren't able to stop any points on the other side of the board. I mean, seriously, 222 yards. Where's Ed Reed? I mean, I know Ed Reed is sitting somewhere Baltimore, you have a phone call on line 1, and it is from Ed Reed. That is disappointing. And here's the thing. I've been saying this for a few weeks now. Odell had been quiet. I knew Odell was about to erupt because he had fell back. He had got all them fines early in the season. People was having come to Jesus meetings with him and telling him, you're being self-destructive to your team and to yourself. He ain't been dancing on yachts no more. You know what I'm saying? He been going out on dates with Nets. Is that what it is? Do I need to get in a relationship with a net? Maybe that's what it is. Odell has changed. That's what this is all boiling down to. Odell has changed, and I felt like he's gonna be fine. And he did not prove me wrong today. I'm very happy for Odell. I'm really happy for Odell. I'm glad that he was able to bounce back. I'm even happier that he did it against the Baltimore Ravens. I look at the Giants as like a carbon copy of my Steelers, because the 2 titles that they got against New England, they were wild card teams. They did not win the division. They were wild card teams. They took the scenic route to the Super Bowl. They won 3 road games, and that's exactly what we did. The 2 that we won, when the Super Bowl that we beat Seattle in, the Super Bowl that we beat Arizona in. Now, the year that we lost to Green Bay, we had won the division. We had a bye week and everything, and it didn't matter. So we took the scenic route as well. So I admire the New York Giants. And again, they remind me a lot of my Pittsburgh Steelers. So I do kind of root for them. They're kind of a little bit near and dear to my heart. And I like Eli. Eli had kind of been like the Solange, and Peyton was kind of like the Beyonce. But now that there's no Peyton, like kind of how Solange has come out with the album, and everybody's just like, woo, this is it. This is better than Beyonce's. So I'm looking at Eli to kind of keep on being the Solange right now. There's no more Peyton. You don't have anything to worry about. So I want him to continue to be the Solange. She has the number 1 album on Billboards and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, Eli got that win back. Come on, Eli. Plus, I picked him to win the division. Eli, you keep on getting your Solange on. You keep on being the sister that everybody's talking about now. Well, in this case, you keep on being the brother that everybody's talking about now. And build off of this. 400 yards, you had a couple of turnovers, but 403 yards is pretty impressive. We haven't seen that Eli in a long time. And you have Ben McAdoo, who has been your offensive coordinator the past couple of years, and now he's your head coach. So continue to build off of that. Your division's very tight. Dallas won and Washington won. You got to make some moves. It's a very tight and dysfunctional division that you play in. But congratulations to the win to you all nonetheless, and we'll see what you guys do throughout the rest of the season, and more specifically within the NFC East.
The next game on the slate is the Cleveland Browns versus the Tennessee Titans. As usual, the Cleveland Browns seem to just keep taking losses. Another loss for Hugh Jack. Hugh, bruh, it's time for you to go next door and knock on the door and ask them if you can borrow you some sugar, and maybe tell them you need a little bit of something to get these players a little spiced up. You got the Tennessee Titans registering 6 sacks in a game against a Hugh Jackson led offense. That don't even sound right. Marcus Mariota 3 touchdown passes. They reeled off their 2nd straight win. This is my division pick, the Tennessee Titans, so they're starting to look solid in the last 2 games. However, the Cleveland Browns, man, they just seem to be headed in the absolute wrong direction. Cody Kessler did have 2 TD passes. Both of them was to Terrell Pryor. Shout out to Terrell Pryor, the former Oakland Raider. And Hugh, we still got love for you. You know what I'm saying? You being a former Oakland Raider. Once a Raider, always a Raider. The rule Al put in place is still in place. But any takeaways from this game, Joan?
Well, again, Thank you to Tennessee for beating another one of my division rivals, especially because we lost today as well. So we maintained our first place in the AFC North for the moment. So thanks, Titans. This is the one game, though, that with looking at, because Cleveland, of course, had started 0-5 before yesterday. This was probably like their best chance to really get a win. And as much as I love Terrell Pryor's moxie, and he had a good game yesterday, I wish he hadn't said what he said a few weeks ago about saying that, we can win the rest of these games. Yeah, you can, but you probably won't. This is now getting into dangerous territory and looking at the rest of your schedule. And as we dissected the rest of your schedule before, this was a game that we thought like, oh, you probably can win. But now with Pittsburgh's situation with Ben, I mean, honestly, before Ben getting hurt, Cleveland has been able to beat the Steelers with Ben, and you'll probably definitely be able to beat them without him. The thing about the Browns is what I'm looking at is you guys have lost close games. I mean, yesterday was just 2 points. So it's not like you just really suck. You just don't have the breaks always come into your favor. Of course, you've lost RG3. You lost your center, Josh Gordon, and your defense doesn't look as good as it looked last year. It's just really unfortunate for Cleveland because I had really been rooting for Hugh Jackson and was hoping for such success for Hugh Jackson. But I haven't seen like this them starting 0-6. I remember the time when Carolina went 1-15. I've seen that in my lifetime, and they went and got Julius Peppers the next year. And then I saw where the Detroit Lions went 0-16. They fired Rob Marinelli, and of course he went on to be the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. But I'm scared that Cleveland's now skating in that territory. I really am. And I hate that because I love me some Hugh Jackson. But Cleveland, if it makes you feel any better, the Indians have been looking good in the baseball playoffs. And you still have LeBron. I mean, if that's any consolation. But LeBron could probably, if they could work it out, I think you can probably get 2 games out of LeBron before the NBA season kicks off. So maybe try to get him suited up real quick, and then maybe you can probably finish 2-14 at this point in the game. Or if Cleveland goes on to win the World Series, that's over in November, so maybe you could try to get some Indians players on your teams. That's about the best advice I have to offer to you guys. Or again, you get to play Cincinnati. You could probably beat Cincinnati, and if you get the shots at Pittsburgh with no Ben, then you got a chance to win some games there as well. But otherwise, we could be unfortunate looking at an 0-16 season for Cleveland.
That was the one thing I didn't want to speak. Doesn't look too good for you, Hugh. I welcome you back to the Oakland Raiders as the offensive coordinator. If if they don't have an appreciation for you at the end of this season. But the next game on the slate, we got the Washington Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is a game that is a feature game considering that we're in Chocolate City. The Redskins were able to handle their business in a home game against the Philadelphia Eagles, in which Kirk Cousins threw for 2 TD passes, over 200 yards, and then tailback Matt Jones had 135 yards and a touchdown. So pretty well-rounded and balanced offensive attack from the Washington Redskins. And on defense, they also were able to register 5 sacks. Ryan Kerrigan with 2 sacks on the day. So, a pretty well-balanced all-around game against a team who had been scorching hot at one point, the Philadelphia Eagles. However, they're reeling at this point. 2 straight losses for the Philadelphia Eagles with Carson Wentz at quarterback. So, Joan, what are your takeaways from this game, the Washington Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, considering that I'm about to have to start talking about this game and Washington is the home team, I'm glad that Washington won because it makes the energy a lot better. And being able to talk about them with them winning and also with them extending their winning streak. I think they're at 4 consecutive wins now. And this was a big one because it was a divisional win. When we talked about Philly starting off 3-0 a few weeks ago, we thought that they needed to beat Detroit last week, and they didn't. And probably Washington was their 2 chances of getting a couple more wins before they got to the most brutal part of their schedule. And that brutal part of their schedule starts next week as they play Minnesota coming off of a bye. And this is the undefeated Minnesota Vikings that we're speaking of coming off of a bye. So it doesn't get much easier for Philly as they could lose 3 straight. Carson Wentz getting sacked 5 times was definitely not a route that you wanted to take. In addition to that, when I see 20 points that you all scored, and I go wondering, oh, well, where did the touchdowns come from? Your kickoff team and your defense. So that's 14 points by them. So your offense was completely flat on yesterday. There was nothing impressive about your offense yesterday. Matthews had 9 carries. Seriously? Carson Wentz getting sacked 5 times? Seriously? Carson Wentz having 179 yards? Seriously? Like, Carson Wentz, you had less yards than gas prices are per gallon right now. I mean, that's what I'm looking at. If your yards ain't more than a gallon of gas, I'm kind of questioning your offense. Now, don't get me wrong, I would love to pay $1.79 for gas again per gallon, but you ain't even get to 200 yards in passing, okay? All around the board, across the board, a lot of concerns for Philly. Now, their secondary, of course, has been stout. Their secondary is in the top 5, so no surprises that they did run back a pick 6. But your offense didn't do anything to help you out. Very disappointed in Philly's performance on offense and unpleasantly surprised. The other thing that Philly kind of shot themselves in the foot was 115 yards in penalties. You had no turnovers, and Washington had the one, and of course you converted and got points on there. But 115 yards of penalties shows me that you play undisciplined football, and that's not a good look either. So you definitely need to fix that quick, fast, in a hurry. The other thing that definitely was an eyebrow raiser in this case, Philadelphia had 12 first downs. Washington doubled that, plus 2, by having 26 first downs. That's impressive for Washington, not so much for Philly. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions, Philly, that you have to answer going into this next game as you take on the Vikings. I wish you well, but congratulations to the Redskins on extending their win streak, and I'll be talking about you guys again shortly. Washington, we definitely appreciate the love. The other thing, when you keep saying Chocolate City, it's making me think about Thin Line Between Love and Hate. Of course, that started Martin, and then it made me think about Tommy, and of course, oh my God, Tommy died, and I'm like, oh no. So, gosh, rest in peace, Tommy. But yeah, congratulations again to the Redskins on the win.
This is a real exciting time right now with, with us being in the Chocolate City. The next game on the slate is a game real near and dear to my heart, the Oakland Raiders. Our streak was brought to a screeching halt by the Kansas City Chiefs, the same team that seemed to be a kryptonite the last few years, winning 5 of 6, and now that's 6 of 7 of the last games that we've played against the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a game where Derek Carr threw for 1 touchdown. Amari Cooper seemed to blister that secondary, but, that wasn't enough. The Oakland Raiders allowed over 160 yards rushing to the combination of Spencer Ware and Jamal Charles. So that seems to be an issue, that they weren't able to solve in this game. There's not much else I can say about it. I mean, it was a rainy day, and there was a forced fumble return by Dontari Poe, the defensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, for a touchdown. That's a big play that the Raiders had not been giving up. The Raiders had not been turning the ball over very much in any of these games. I think Derek Carr had 1 interception on the season and 1 fumble on the season. In this game, he had 1 interception and 1 fumble. I'd say the turnovers were the difference in this game. The Kansas City Chiefs were able to pull this game out 26-10. Joan, any takeaways from this game, and going forward, anything to add the situation for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Oakland Raiders?
Unfortunately, Oakland had set themselves up in a better predicament because Denver lost their last 2 games last Sunday and, of course, on Thursday night. Oakland had a 1-game lead. Now they're tied with Denver. However, Oakland still is in first place based off of the tiebreaker. So, thankfully, it didn't cause that much damage. But this is a game that I picked that I thought that Oakland was going to win. To see them lose by 16 points at home to a team that has kind of been like a Hoosier daddy 6 of the last 7 times, I really expected this much improved Oakland team to come out and stop that bleeding today, especially with the uncertainty of Jamal Charles, because a few of those games, Jamal Charles had been what was killing Oakland. And I'm just thinking they don't have a 100% Jamal Charles. He's still out there and he's still a threat. And of course, this wasn't the Jamal Charles that we've been seeing. Yes, he did get into the end zone, but the numbers that Ware put up, those were kind of the numbers that Jamal Charles typically put up. So if you would have told me before the game started that Jamal Charles is gonna have 1 touchdown and 9 rushes for 33 yards, I would have said, Oakland's winning that game. They're going to win that. Because, again, how much damage Jamal Charles has caused and how much havoc he's caused over the years. But that's not what happened. I mean, Spencer Ware was able to get stuff done. Alex Smith, of course, with his short pass, and he was 19 for 22, only 3 incompletions. No surprises there. But, again, this is a guy that does not stretch the field. Hence the reason why Jeremy Maclin only had 3 catches for 49 yards and his long was 38. because Alex Smith just does not play long ball. And Andy Reid knows that, so he happens to make sure that Alex Smith looks like a gem every week because he does not expose Alex Smith's weaknesses. That's a great coach to me because he doesn't force Alex Smith to be anything other than a game manager. And he does just enough, i.e., like not throwing interceptions and things like that. Those intangibles are really good, and that helps Kansas City succeed. Oakland, of course, will get another crack at Kansas City, but in order to not get swept, you will have to beat them at Arrowhead. It is very possible. But like you alluded to, the turnovers was the Achilles heel of this. Oakland having the 2 turnovers and not being able to force any. The thing, though, as much as I love Oakland's offense more than their defense. Their defense gives up yards and gives up points, and that has to be fixed quick, fast, and hurry. But, of course, we know a lot of their strength is coming back. Alden Smith, and we're also waiting on Murray to come back as well. So, hopefully, that'll help get Oakland back on track. It seems like Oakland and Pittsburgh have lost their games at the same time, and I'm picking these 2 teams because I'm a Steelers fan and the Guru's an Oakland fan. And also, it's like the weekends that I'm on, like Good Day Charlotte, we lost, and y'all lost. And now that I'm in Good Morning Washington, our teams lose again. So maybe I shouldn't be doing any interviews. Maybe I should chill out on these national interviews like this. You know what I'm saying? I have one coming up in November, so maybe we'll be good. We'll win some games, and we'll lose our next one in November when I have that next broadcast. But losing 1 game a month isn't bad. But we definitely got to stop the bleeding for Oakland against Kansas City. And again, they get another crack at it later on the season, and perhaps the results will be better. So congratulations to the Chiefs nonetheless. In Oakland, again, you're still in first place. Just rebound and continue to control your destiny as a result.
I definitely agree with you 100% on that, Joan. The next game on the slate is featuring the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. And I got a message for you, Mr. Discount Double Chuck, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. For the security at the Green Bay Lambeau Field. You guys need to tighten up the security at Lambeau Field, because who is this guy? Who is this guy going out there putting on this number 12 jersey? Because that can't just be Aaron Rodgers. That ain't Mr. Discount Double Check throwing 1 touchdown and 1 interception against the Dallas Cowboy defense this week. Mr. Dak Prescott out there throwing 3 touchdown passes like a G. We got Zeke against the elite Green Bay Packers defense running for 157 yards. You got a balanced offense like that. Jerry Jones could come out his mouth and talk about benching his quarterback. Man, you done lost your mind. I think the family needed to check him into Dorothy Dix. Coming away from this game, I was kind of rooting for the Dallas Cowboys to win this game. They did just that. I did predict that the Green Bay Packers would win, but I don't know who this guy was out there in the number 12 jersey for the Packers, because that just wasn't the right guy yesterday. Any takeaways from this game, Joan, between the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers?
Again, going back to my weekly interviews in Jacksonville, Florida, the host, who's been very gracious to me, AJ, shout outs to you, and happy belated birthday. And again, I'm very grateful to you. He's a Cowboys fan. So in addition to talking about Jacksonville's games, because that's the local team, he also asked me to pick the upsets and to talk about his Cowboys. And as much as I didn't want to, because I'm not a Cowboys fan, I despise the Cowboys, I picked the Cowboys to win that game. That was my upset pick, and I felt like that they could and would, and they did. And it's all because of Dak Prescott. If Tony Romo was in that lineup, absolutely not. I'm just really, really over Tony Romo at this point in the game, and I'm over Jerry Jones not being over Tony Romo at this point. I appreciate how loyal he is to him. That's great. But you can be loyal to him as the person, but not be loyal to him as your quarterback. Because if you're going to continue to be loyal to him as your quarterback, you're going to find yourself with a terrible quarterback controversy. Quarterback controversy you want is, I got 2 good, healthy quarterbacks. You don't want the, because this one's healthy again, and we're going to mess up the chemistry and throw it off, and we're going to put him back in because he's the veteran. No, that's not what you want to do. You want to play with the hot hand. The hot hand owner right now is Dak Prescott. He continues to impress on a weekly basis. And what's crazy is he's not even doing anything spectacular. He's just doing the necessary and the correct things. Again, a lot of stuff that Dak does, you won't see in the stat column. Like just throwing the ball away instead of taking a sack like that of a Tony Romo would have done. Or forcing stuff or throwing off of his back foot. That's stuff that you will not see in the stats category. But that's stuff that Tony Romo does. And Dallas has a great offensive line. And one of the things I was speaking of with AJ in Jacksonville, even though Green Bay has a stout defensive line. I mean, after all, they've only allowed opposing running backs an average of 47 yards per carry, something like that. No more than 50. And you saw what they did at AP. I did tell him that I felt like Dallas's offensive line would have the advantage there. That is a terrific offensive line. It really, really is. They're keeping Dak upright. They're giving him time. They're making sure that his pocket awareness is intact. They're keeping his confidence intact. And that's impressive and appreciated when your offensive line can do that. And again, those are unsung heroes. So it's really impressive to see what this young man is doing. Again, Dak being short for Dakota. So maybe that's why, like, his name's Dakota. And it's just like, I'm good in the Midwest too. So maybe he was able to just go out there to Wisconsin like, it's nothing. I'm Dakota. I'm good in any state that I travel because I'm Dakota. No, I'm just kidding. But congratulations to Dallas. That was a huge win to down the road. And again, Jerry Jones put a mute to that conversations, those talks of having Tony Romo come back, because otherwise you're going to be sitting at the crib after the first of the year watching everybody else pursue the Lombardi in the playoffs.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the next game on the docket is the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. And the Seahawks were hosting the Atlanta Falcons in Seattle, in a game which I predicted that the Seahawks would melt them some Matty Ice. They did just that, cooled off the hot Atlanta Falcons, even though there was a controversial call in which people felt that Richard Sherman did a pass interference. The game still came down to the Falcons having to stop the Seahawks from driving down and scoring a game-winning field goal, in which that defense was not able to do that. The Seattle Seahawks were able to move to 4-1, and the Falcons were moved to 4-2. Any takeaways from this game, Joan, or any things to add in which many people felt the controversial call decided the game?
Well, granted, it was definitely a controversial call. Like, where was the pass interference? That is a very valid argument. However, Atlanta, you had the lead. You relinquished the lead. It shouldn't even came down to, you should never let the refs decide the game. You had a lead. You were behind. You built a lead. And the lead that you had was either 7 to 10 points. So, but for Seattle, all they had to do was actually win by a field goal. So that's 2 blunders. You had a 7-point lead, or maybe even 10. So you should have forced Seattle to have scored a touchdown to either just tie it, nonetheless win. But somehow you got them in a predicament where all they needed was a field goal. So you had a couple of blunders there. And you were on the road, and you were playing well. You were doing a really, really good job in this, but you surrendered it. And where I'm not surprised is because I've seen y'all go 5-0 and 6-0 before, and you've collapsed. So I don't know if we're about to hit that spot right now. I don't know if that's like an air pocket that we're about to hit. Maybe you will get out of it. But you had a chance to win. We can't make the top story here be the Richard Sherman, they missed the pass interference on him, because Richard Sherman's name shouldn't even be in a conversation with this, because you had a chance to win. Like, we shouldn't even be talking about Richard Sherman's controversial call. Because you had that lead, Richard Sherman should have been on the sideline pouting, not having a chance to put his team in a predicament to win, which looks like may have happened. You had one job, and that was to secure your fourth quarter lead. And you didn't do that. So let's not get to pointing fingers on the referee missing a call. You should not put the referees in that position to be able to make those calls. You had a lead. You should have held on to it. And you were on the road. That was huge. That was colossal if you would have been able to pull this off. But what you did was took your foot off the pedal. You put the game in the referee's hands, and sometimes the ball doesn't always bounce in your favor, and this is one of those chances that it didn't. However, I would not let you be great to play a pity party on, oh, we only lost that game because of that controversial call. Nope. That's not why. That is not why you lost the game. Again, you should have held on to that lead for dear life, and Richard Sherman should not even be a part of the conversation as to this being the reason why you lost. So get it together, tighten up, and close out on those fourth quarter wins, and you won't have to worry about situations like that again. But congratulations to Seattle. Show resilience in coming back and doing so. And big win for them coming off of a bye also. And keeping just a singular loss there, which is still an impressive record, and starting off within the first 6 games of the season.
Absolutely. So the next game and the last game on the slate for today that we're going to talk about, at least, is between the Indianapolis Colts visiting the Houston Texans. And this was a game in which I picked the Indianapolis Colts and was wrong. And this game came down to an overtime play in which Brock Osweiler threw the deep ball to Jalen Strong and put them in field goal position to knock off the Indianapolis Colts 26-23. You know, a game of scrub, considering that Brock Osweiler was the quarterback facing against the overrated Andrew Luck. Considering that these two were the quarterbacks, you know, leading these two teams, the expectations definitely were low, and I am not surprised that Andrew Luck came up short like leprechauns again. And Frank Gore did provide the Colts with 100 rushing yards, a stat that was given in the game. Like, the Colts hadn't had a 100-yard rusher in like 4 years. Like, oh, Andrew Luck had no help. Well, you know, you had Frank Gore with 100 yards this game. They brought Robert Mathis out the rest home, and he had a sack today. The defense actually helped out a little bit. You know, they gave you something. They gave you a sack. The Houston Texans are a pretender team. You know, people early in the season was declaring them to be a contender. I'm declaring them as a pretender. Any takeaways or anything to add between the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts, Joan?
Well, I picked the Texans to win this game. And the more I kept thinking about it, like, I kind of didn't want them to, because I picked Jacksonville to win the division. So I'm just kind of like, I really don't want them to win. The more and more I kept thinking about it. But what I did give Houston the benefit was Houston typically wins at home, and tonight was no exception. We finally saw an appearance from Lamar Miller. We've been waiting for weeks for this Lamar Miller to show up, and he definitely showed up and showed out. And we've also been waiting for this Brock Osweiler to show up too. Is this your idea of Anita Baker, and you're giving us the best that you got on this? That's it? Is that all we're going to get? Is 269 yards the highest that we're going to get? Again, it's vast improvement, but why is it taking us 6 weeks to see you, A, do this, and B, why is it only 269 yards, and you're supposed to be a franchise quarterback, and you're getting $12 million a year? At this point in the game, as of right now, Houston, y'all could have kept Brian Hoyer for this. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're winning games, and there's a little bit more conviction in some of the wins, but based off of quarterback versus quarterback, and again, like I said, there's a stat about Aaron Rodgers' past 11 starts and Brian Hoyer's past 11 starts, and Brian Hoyer actually had him by an edge. You could have kept him for this, because Brock Osweiler has not been doing the things that contract that he signed, they don't match. They don't run parallel as they should. Now, granted, it has only been 6 weeks, so maybe we will see more from Brock Osweiler. But at the moment, you know, this 269-yard performance is not all that impressive for a quarterback of your caliber, quote unquote. You still have a long way to go. I'm glad to see Lamar Miller come in and do what he did. Keep it going, though, Lamar. Like, seriously, keep it going. And, of course, we saw the Colts with another fourth quarter, with another collapse. Had a chance to win, and they collapsed. I mean, they were up a couple of scores. And, again, we're going to hear those questions over and over again about how much longer is Pagano going to be there. And, sadly, they'll get rid of him before restructuring Andrew Luck's contract. He still ain't all the way made that money yet. And I'm still sticking around with Indy for that. Both teams still have a long way to go. But again, this is the AFC South, a division that is wide open. Whoever wins it will probably be a fourth seed with another 9-7 record and open up the postseason as a home game for them. But it will be an ugly backing in situation here and getting in the playoffs for whichever team decides to throw caution to the wind and take reins of the AFC South. All right, and so that's going to do it for this installment of the Jock and Jill podcast. Again, huge interview for myself at Good Morning Washington, and so that's why we're reporting live from what you call it, a chocolate city. I ain't do it like you, but yeah, I took a crack at it since I'm a human version of Chocolate City. I decided to take a crack at it. So yeah, huge games on Sunday. Huge implications for teams for the future. What's going to happen with some of the coaches, some key injuries as well. But we also got to see some of the teams kind of separating themselves. We're seeing some separation of the men versus the boys in some of these instances with the results of these games. Always awesome to look at football and to talk about football. Just wish the season would slow down a little bit now. You know, like exactly, brand Nubian voice. Yeah, the next time we'll be talking about football, we'll be talking about week 7. So, wow, it's just really, really fast. But, Guru, tell the people how they can get a hold of you, how they can reach you. You know, A&T Homecoming is coming up this week, and we will be returning to North Carolina shortly. If you need, like, some videos and things, shots and pictures taken, this is your professional guy, your one-stop shop destination. So, Guru, tell the good people how they can get a hold of you.
Like us at Cold Coffee TV on Facebook. Follow us at Cold Coffee TV on Twitter. Subscribe to us at Cold Coffee TV on YouTube. Run with us or run from us, baby. You know the motto. From Chocolate City.
And it's for me, your girl Latasha Miles, aka Joan Madden, the Gridiron Goddess. I can be located on Facebook at Latasha Joan Madden Miles. Again, that's Latasha Joan Madden Miles. On Twitter and IG at she_SPN. Again, at she_SPN. YouTube, the channel is SheSPN, the network. So be sure that you subscribe to that, and you'll get weekly updates of my predictions out of Jacksonville, Florida, with the NFL weekly picks, the Fantasy Fulfilled episodes as well, which again I was pretty accurate on that. I only missed a couple of things, but the Kobe Fleener thing, that was huge, and Mike Thomas also the Saints. So yeah, both of those were huge, and McCoy with the multi-touchdown game. If you would have listened to my predictions earlier, I set you up pretty well for the week, so you might want to holler at your girl. And again, my Jacksonville picks have been looking pretty accurate as well. So yeah, that would be SheSPN, the network. Again, click that subscribe button, and it's for free $99. Now, what's not free $99 is my book. But I still would appreciate if you go out and show me some love and support. It is available on Amazon.com and CreateSpace.com. Again, it's entitled When Football Season Turns You Into a Side Chick, the ultimate survival guide for relationships and households during football season. Again, Amazon.com and CreateSpace.com. So go out and get your copies, please. And obviously it's doing something right. I mean, we're in DC for some reason, so looks like the book's got some legs and it's doing something. So your support is requested and appreciated. All right, don't wait till it gets too late to say like, hey, I know her, that kind of thing. So yeah, don't wait before it's too late to do so. All right. So again, we'll be returning to North Carolina shortly. DC, it's been real. Thank you all so much for tuning in to our podcast, which is the Jock and Jill Show. We'll catch you next time, and we're out.